Not only have the show's production values and prizes exponentially increased over the past 10 seasons, but Drag Race has grown to showcase a broader spectrum of drag, from the macabre, goth stylings of Sharon Needles to the trippy anime couture of Kimchi and the exaggerated Barbie antics of Trixie Mattel. Last season's winner, Sasha Velour, is a whimsical, proudly bald, and always thought-provoking queen who showcases a kind of drag that is conceptual and more willing to push boundaries. On Untucked, the Drag Race behind-the-scenes after-show, several performers have revealed deep truths that cut beyond drag, and Gina came out as HIV positive in Season 1, and both Monica Beverly Hills and Peppermint revealed they were trans on their respective seasons. Still, while the show has done so much to shape our appreciation of drag, it has not done so without controversy. The show and its creator have faced criticism for using transphobic terms like she-male and tranny in jokes and show segments, causing uproar from the LGBTQ community. More recently, RuPaul's comments in an interview with The Guardian that he probably wouldn't allow female-identifying contestants to compete on the show received a deluge of blowback, forcing RuPaul to issue a rare apology. As drag's popularity explodes, criticisms of Drag Race are sure to grow, too. Which is to be expected. For most of its history, drag has represented a loud fuck you to mainstream cisgender heteronormativity, reveling in its queerness and outsider status, mocking the tenets of a culture which regularly marginalized LGBTQ people. Drag queens were once essentially the queer equivalent of punk rock, proud to be on the outside, and unwilling to compromise or bow to a culture which seemed hopelessly retro and square. But as the broader culture begins to look less square, or straight, than ever, there is the danger that drag, especially as it's portrayed on Drag Race, may lose some of its edge and bow to the demands of its shifting audience, one which is far less concerned with the art form's scrappy, outsider roots as it is in seeing a sickening display of eleganza. Perhaps nothing better captures the tension between Drag Race's newfound mainstream success and drag's historical roots as a countercultural force than recent comments made by veteran Queen Lady Bunny during an interview with Mike. Drag Race fans are now obsessed with the quality of your lace fronts. There is practically a uniform now, where your nose has to have the hieroglyphics painted on it to make it look absolutely as small as possible. There has to be highlighter here. You have to be padded a certain way. I'm sick of the rules. If drag is self-expression, we need to kill these rules. Some queens who appeared on recent seasons echoed Lady Bunny's concerns. Thor, the outspoken Season 9 and All Stars 3 contestant, admitted that the influx of new fans can sometimes be part of the problem. Of course, a lot of the queens starting out can't afford all these expensive gowns and hair. Who is expecting them to? I'll tell you. It's 13-year-old trolls that sit by their computer and attack girls on social media. Thor says. In case you haven't read all the Instagram comments, everyone feels they're now an expert on drag. If anything, if Drag Race has created a uniform, it would be the fans that have created a negative attitude with how they handle us and other fans, says Dusty Ray Bottoms, one of the contestants on Season 10. Concerns that queens have to cultivate and please a fan base are not unfounded. To get on Drag Race now, it's pretty much a requirement. Almost every contestant on later seasons of Drag Race have already had some degree of fame and polish before they were chosen. They most likely already own those expensive lace front wigs, have mastered the art of contouring and highlighting, and have purchased or made some luxurious couture gowns. On some level, it makes perfect sense. The show wants to feature the cream of the national drag crop, and so it culls its contestants accordingly. But one has to wonder, much as Thorgy and Lady Bunny do, what message that sends out to the wider drag community, if the only way to make it on the show is to already be successful and polished. The show has certainly grown to showcase a wider variety of drag, but as seasons have gone on, so has the idea that its contestants are part of an exclusive, some might say elite, club. Sure, the show does feature different, non-mainstream drag queens, but that different kind of drag still seems RuPaul-approved, more expensive and marketable, less fringy and weird. Just look at any one of the Drag Race girls' Instagram. Hair buy, gown buy, jewelry buy, makeup buy. Drag has become less about being a personality and more about being a model, yet many performers are attracted to the art of drag precisely because it is weird and out there. Perhaps the best example of this is the flourishing drag community in Brooklyn, where alt drag seems to have taken root and where expressions of drag run a gamut of shape-shifting, gender-bending and genre mashups that are wacky, bizarre, and sometimes even unsettling. Bushwig, the yearly weekend-long event in Bushwick, has grown so popular that last year it included performances from over 200 queens and sold out the 5,000-capacity Knockdown Center on one of its 2 days. There, you're more likely to encounter bizarre, art-inspired queens in DIY outfits than the more polished, fishy look seen on Drag Race. Brooklyn-based Queen Mary Cherry, founder of the long-running Williamsburg-based Dragnet competition, remembers that as few as 6 years ago, there were few local places one could catch drag in her borough. When I started Dragnet, there was really no regular drag events happening in Brooklyn that people would go to in big groups. A lot of people who had never even done drag before started getting into it because of my party. Within about 5 months, it became a community of misfits. Next month is our 6-year anniversary. Cherry relates to Lady Bunny's comments because she's often felt that kind of pressure herself. There is a kind of connect for your makeup nowadays, she says. I do feel that it's definitely become a uniform of what drag is. The question, however, is what one can or even should do about that, and if drag is exploding, whether expecting Drag Race to represent every kind of drag may be unreasonable. I do think that a lot of people have been complaining that certain types of drag are not represented on the show, which I understand, Cherry says. I honestly feel that since day one, the show has always been open to the different types of drag. Drag has become such a beast, I don't even know how many episodes there would need to be if every single type of drag was to be represented on Drag Race. Furthermore, criticisms that Drag Race can seem exclusive have to take into account that it is, after all, a television show. And the primary concern of television shows lays in building an audience, something Drag Race seems to be doing spectacularly well. The show has learned more than anything that our audience wants to relate to and love us as characters, says Eureka, returning to Season 10 after a leg injury forced her to bow out of Season 9. Our fans connect with our stories, and it shows them they are not alone in the daily emotional struggles of life. Look, I am a business person, Cherry said. And for me, that means I'm about money. I'm about reality. And the reality is that as a TV show, they need to make money. So yeah, most of the girls already have a strong following because people know the ratings will be higher when they get more popular girls. Think Aquaria. I mean, we all knew from 3 years ago that Aquaria would be on eventually. If performers aren't seeing themselves represented on Drag Race, it doesn't mean they don't have other options. The internet drag competition Dragula, for its part, has become a platform for exactly the kind of outre, subversive, and category-defying drag that hasn't been showcased on Drag Race. Founded by the Boulet brothers in 2016, the show launched on YouTube network Hey Queen, and has since moved to Out TV for its second season. Season 3 has already begun casting. In it, contestants have been buried alive in a coffin with bugs thrown on them and competed with one another to see who can be pierced by the most body modification needles. It has also managed to launch a few queens into prominence itself, such as Vander Von Odd and Bitch Puddin'. It's something that nightlife legend Murray Hill says all the time: if you're not seeing yourself out in the community, you need to make it happen, Cherry said. And I feel like that's happening with Dragula. It's happening with Willem and Latrice's new show coming together. Cherry is referring to Ultimate Drag Idol, a new show which so far has offered few details on its widely shared Instagram post, other than auditions will be held soon, the cash prize will $100,000, and, in what can only be seen as an obvious dig at RuPaul, a promise that it will be a gender-inclusive battle for the crown. Given Willem's response to RuPaul's comments on Insta, and her penchant for controversy, including some transphobic comments of her own, it's probably not surprising that someone like her would come along to challenge Drag Race's primacy. And perhaps this is a good thing. If drag has become so popular that one show is no longer enough to satisfy its audience's appetite, wouldn't that be the ultimate tribute to how successful the show and RuPaul have become? I definitely think Drag Race is just the beginning. Asia, another queen appearing on Season 10, says, I hope that, in the next 5 or 10 years, they broaden the spectrum even more. Maybe a spin-off show for trans women, male impersonators, or baby queens under the age of 21, or, perhaps, its very own network. RuPaul, after all, seems to get what RuPaul wants. Sasson is a Brooklyn-based writer whose work regularly appears in The New Republic, Vice and Good. Get the best of what's queer. Sign up for our weekly newsletter.